saw were Americans moving into the general area of one of the Panamanian military installations.
The main force of today's attack was on General Noriega's military headquarters and his palace in the south of the city. The Americans called the attack Operation Just Cause. They declared it a success.
Today on the Gear Locker, we're talking about the history and the gear of the Rangers in Panama. Most of what I'll be sharing with you came from the experiences of the 3rd Battalion in the 75th Rangers, since they had a hand in both the Rio Hato airfield and the airport, as well as a little bit more. But we'll be talking about most of what the Rangers did during Operation Just Cause as an entirety. If you're not familiar with Operation Just Cause, after dictator of Panama, Manuel Noriega, declared war on the United States, he was to be brought back to the US to stand trial on drug charges. That, including the killing of an unarmed American service member down there, led the United States to invade on December 20th of 1989. The Rangers were at the forefront of this operation, with the exception of the SEALs, who had to tackle another mission, and then the rescuing of Kurt Muse with Delta Force operators, which we'll get to in another video. But here is all about the Rangers, and let's kick it off with just a little bit of gear. Now, as you saw in the intro video, the loadout that I put together for myself is my own personal flavor. It is all absolutely factually correct, but there are some unit SOPs and things that I would like to discuss with you guys here. If we start with the base uniform, we're looking at a Type 2 Hot Weather Ripstop Woodland BDU uniform. On the shoulder, you'll see a Ranger tab on the vast majority of these guys, with the Ranger scroll right below it, of course denoting the battalion that they're in. They're all rocking standard Panama sole jungle boots and brown standard issue undershirts. Other things you will see on the uniform are US Army tapes and name tapes, jump wings, and if you've got a keen eye and are looking at some certain photos, you'll see bike knee pads on the bottom, mostly around their ankles. It's an absolutely correct look to have them hanging out down low. The belt is the standard BDU trouser belt, and you'll see a ton of watches, but I went for a classic Casio F91W. Now, stepping off for this mission, they were told to overload their equipment. According to one of the sources that I read, members in his battalion, which 3rd Ranger Battalion, were told to double up on magazine pouches. So sometimes they can be seen with 3 or even 4 of them all on the front of their web gear, which of course is all standard Alice equipment, with an exception. In many cases, you'll see the same kind of things. A couple magazine pouches, again 2 to 4, 2 canteen pouches, usually 2 of the compass or first aid pouches, sometimes an SDU 5E strobe mounted up to the shoulder, and very, very often an M61 butt pack. No, I didn't say M56, that is the earlier variant. Pretty much all of the guys there had M61s, and it's not every single guy that carried it, and we don't know whether they jumped out with it or ditched them early on. But again, there are some photos that absolutely don't have it, and I'm a certified butt pack hater, which is why I didn't run it in my kit. But keep in mind, for a general impression, this is going to be something you want. You'll see a variety of other things on the web belt, including the M9 Frobus 3 bayonet, M67 grenades, and zip ties for restraining any PDF soldiers or if they happen to stumble across Noriega, and other small accessories and accoutrements throughout that you guys can see in reference photos. We're going to get into the rucksacks in an entirely separate video, but one of my favorite parts of this kit is the helmet with the helmet scrim. I did a whole video on how to do this, so I'd highly recommend watching that. But you'll see either the sewing method or the net method used here. SOP for a lot of the Rangers is to include little IR or glint tape squares somewhere on the back of their helmet. A reference that I did look through did mention these, but I couldn't identify them in any reference photos. What I do know of though is glint squares, again, in the helmet band on the back. The weaponry does have some variety. Most guys carried M16A2s. But the Colt 723 was a popular choice for team leaders, squad leaders, and above. You will see some FN saws, as well as some what I believe M24 sniper rifles. There's references of these guys packed into their C-130s or C-141Bs, absolutely overloaded with equipment. A lot of their rucksacks contained more ammunition than anything else, which I think is such a neat piece of history. And if you guys do want to see a rucksack video, let me know in the comments below. I'd be happy to do one. For this video, I think that would take way too much time to dive into, but again, if you want to see it, tell me. A lot of the guys that you'll also see painted their faces. And some electrical tape can be seen throughout the kits to spruce it up, tie things down, and make it more silent. So overall, as you can tell, it's not really a complicated kit. It's pretty straightforward and still relatively available, but the details are what really matters. Take a look at those reference photos, especially all the ones I've been putting on screen, and pick out some fun details and things that you notice and let me know below. I'm curious what you guys see that I didn't. But now it's time for some history. As I had mentioned, 3rd Battalion was split between two separate locations, nearly 100 miles apart. Headquarters Company Alpha and Bravo were assigned to Task Force Red Romeo. They were operating under the command of the 2nd Ranger Battalion, and their objective was the Rio Hato airfield, the one that most people know of. There, close by, was the Panamanian Defense Force's elite soldier barracks. So they kind of had a big objective to take. On the flip side of that, C Company of the 3rd Battalion 75th Rangers was assigned to Task Force Red Tango. They were under the 1st Ranger Battalion and were part of the operation to secure the Tucuman airport. And immediately, before they even stepped off, there were issues with the operation. During the staging at Army Airfield in Georgia, ice storms had just blown over. So the Rangers were all cramped in their fuselages, in full combat equipment and their rigs. Many Rangers reported that their legs were numb well before they even took off. Task Force Red Tango, which again was C Company, moving with the 1st Ranger Battalion, utilized the C-130 aircraft, whereas the remainder of it, H Company A and B of 3rd Ranger Battalion under 2nd Ranger Battalion, going to Rio Hato, used C-141Bs. And in one of the largest, if not the largest, nighttime airborne operation since World War II, these Rangers jumped out of their aircraft at extremely low altitudes. They were around 500 feet above ground level, with the report saying they only had 15 seconds before they had hit the ground. And according to many, including one of the Rangers on that mission, Brian Winningham, a lot of the 75th Ranger Regiment took casualties just on impact, with a lot of broken limbs. Both of these units hit the ground almost simultaneously. So now we're going to get into what each unit of this operation did in those early morning hours. Let's start with the smaller of the two, Charlie Company of the 3rd Ranger Battalion. They again were part of Task Force Red Tango, with the objective of hitting the Tucuman airport. Now, there's a really good interview that I listened to, and I believe it's still on YouTube. If I remember what it is, I will link it down below. But this was a Ranger's account of hitting these objectives, and was one of the first injured with enemy fire there. Securing this airport and all the terminals was, of course, very difficult for them to do. Just prior to them stepping off, unbeknownst to them, 398 civilians from all countries were stuck at that airport as a plane or two had landed early. Armed soldiers from the PDF's 2nd Infantry Company retreated to that building and took hostages. In the interview that I referenced, the Ranger recalls a woman screaming, "I have a baby," from the window as the PDF soldiers held her at gunpoint. From there, they breached and systematically cleared all the rooms in the airport, taking fire and taking casualties as they secured the area and freed the civilians that were trapped. It was a long night, going from 0100 to 0700, but by then, control of the terminal had been secured, and the new responsibility to again keep the civilians contained was handed off to the 82nd Airborne, who had just come in. After this, Charlie Company moved into the center of Panama City to reinforce conventional forces who were heading to the Comandancia. Now we get to Task Force Red Romeo, the Rio Hato airfield, with H Company A and B, all of the 3rd Battalion, under the command of 2nd Battalion. At 1:03 in the morning, they jumped in. And again, their lives were made more difficult. The stealth fighters had dropped bombs to hopefully soften the blow and allow the Rangers to infiltrate with less resistance. But all that the bombs had done was be off target and serve as a wake-up call to allow massive amounts of PDF troops to engage with the Rangers who were just landing. They dropped into an active engagement zone, from open asphalt to roofs of corrugated barrack structures, and getting stuck in swampy areas. These Rangers were scattered, but as resilient as they are, they rejoined and regrouped to form these fighting groups and were able to take control of the airfield. Headquarters Company quickly established a prisoner area as well as a pseudo-TOC. Alpha Company had moved in and taken control of the critical Inter-American Highway, destroying incoming PDF reinforcements. Bravo Company of 3rd Ranger Battalion infiltrated the barracks and other military installations, using mortars and infrared strobes to signal for AC-130 gunships to hit certain areas. By 0330, Bravo Company reported that their mission was a success. Task Force Red Romeo had dismantled the PDF's primary Western fighting force, which secured Rio Hato Airfield to be a strategic place that more units could come into. In another interview that I had listened to, a funny anecdote had taken place where a Ranger had encountered two PDF soldiers. One had run right towards him, not seeing him, so he knocked him out with the butt of his rifle. The other allegedly, from the story, had fainted and they were able to take both of them prisoners. I bet those flex cuffs came in handy then. What's most impressive is that in a single morning, the fragmented elements of the 3rd Ranger Battalion had successfully completed every single operational mission that they were given, truly putting a name to the Rangers Lead the Way. And I don't know about you guys, but I love this kit, and the history is what makes it even cooler. So if this is something that you guys would like to build, definitely check out the reference photos that I've put together, and leave in the comments any of your experiences too. I'd love to hear more from Ranger guys who served during Operation Just Cause. And stay tuned, because this Just Cause June, we've got even more coming. Different units and some other cool details. This is the Gear Locker. See you guys in the next one.
Go.
It's out of gas. Recording?